Over at the lower house, Speaker Sonny Belmonte pushed for congressional approval of several priority measures that will promote good governance and further improve the country's economy. These include the draft Bangsamoro Basic Law and the economic charter change, which the Speaker himself authored. Speaker Belmonte issued the call in his speech during the opening of the third regular session of the 16th Congress. Freddie Abando was there and he filed this report.
The support of the House, led by Speaker Feliciano Belmonte, for the Aquino administration has been solid, strong, and steady. In opening the final session of the 16th Congress, Speaker Belmonte stressed the House attained credibility for supporting the President's legislative agenda, which promoted good governance, economic growth, and the reduction of poverty incidents. Belmonte stressed the House is poised to end the 16th Congress next year with a golden harvest of measures approved to sustain its performance in the 15th Congress. One which underscored the credibility of the House is the passage of the GOCC Governance Act, which ended the abuse of government-controlled corporations.
Our government and Congress began its work under the administration of His Excellency President Benigno S. Aquino III with his call 5 years ago during the 15th Congress for all government officials to observe a no wang-wang policy. This was not only meant to be a symbolic gesture, as it actually highlighted the government's commitment of doing away with the pomp and privilege of power and high position. It became our collective mission as well to restore decency to public service, ending long-standing practices of preferences, exemptions, and abuse, profoundly guided by the sense of fairness and decency of the Filipino. The House of Representatives has acted in this spirit, compelling even the mightiest and the most powerful in the land to submit themselves before the full majesty of the law, subjecting all those culpable to a complete accounting before our people. Good governance is the condition precedent the trust of the people, so that Congress may craft the social contract to feed the poor, educate our children, cure the sick, provide decent employment for our workers, empower the social sectors, and defend our national territory. By this measure and by these standards, we can all proudly and resoundingly say that Daang Matuwid has been a resounding success.
Belmonte listed 14 pending priority measures for the House to approve until the end of the 16th Congress next year. 6 are considered very urgent: the Bangsamoro Basic Law, the proposed 2016 budget of 3.002 trillion pesos, the Freedom of Information Bill, amendments of the Build, Operate, Transfer Law, the creation of the Department of Information and Communication Technology, and the modernization of Pagasa. Belmonte urged his peers to pass the BBL to implement the peace agreement between the government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. He also pushed for the resumption of peace talks between the government and the communist movement of the Philippines.
To the end of achieving peace, we are also committed to passing the Bangsamoro Basic Law. For far too long, the conflict in the Bangsamoro have taken different forms, rooted in passions that feed on discrimination and deprivations that are fueled by poverty. We must address the long-standing grievances of the Bangsamoro people by empowering them to fully provide for their self-expression and commitment. But this has to be complemented by clear and decisive legislative language to accommodate and empower not just the new majority of the Muslims in the Bangsamoro, but also for all other groups whose lives, families are located in this regionally autonomous area of the Bangsamoro. There is also a sense of new possibility for our country as a whole after Mama Sapano, as we work towards achieving real and lasting peace in Mindanao. We must also have the courage to finally come to peace with one another and with ourselves, but by exploring all avenues for peace.
Belmonte also pushed for the approval of Resolution Number 1 to amend restrictive economic provisions of the Constitution.
It is now in that same spirit that I urge you, our dear colleagues, to ensure that we finally pass both houses Number 1. By amending the restrictive economic provisions of our Constitution, we empower Congress to enact laws that will attract the kind of investments that will reverse the deindustrialization and de-agriculturalization of our economy. Only then can we encourage locators and investors to expand our manufacturing sector, the area where the better paying, decent jobs can be created. This is the best strategy to ensure that no Filipino will be left behind.
Belmonte stressed Resolution Number 1 will be a big plus in support of the fair competition law to attract more foreign direct investments for sustained economic and inclusive growth.
Just last week, President Aquino signed into law the Philippine Competition Law. This is the antitrust law that took all of 26 years and 8 Congresses to finally enact into law. With this law, we now prohibit and penalize anti-competitive agreements, anti-competitive mergers, addressing a whole range of sectors from power to water to telecommunications to connectivity and to transportation.
Despite all the tests and trials, Speaker Belmonte stressed the House rose to the challenge of providing our people the service they deserve. Belmonte said the House is one family with one common cause, the greater national interest.
Let us, in the end, earn a righteous and honored place in our country's history and a cherished position in the hearts of our people. I wish you Godspeed and my solidarity as we work together to pass our legislative agenda, meet the judgment of history in 2016.
For the People's Television Network, this is Freddie Abando reporting.